Okay, good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you guys are joining in from. This is Aishwarya here from Coach to Transformation, and today we have your CCU webinar by Razan Kilani. I would like to give a short introduction. Razan is a public speaker, an ICF MCC, and an emotional intelligence trainer since 2010. She is a trainer coach mentor at the International Coach Academy. Razan has over 5,000 hours of practical coaching experience and 15 years of experience as well. She holds a MA in the Media and Cultural Studies from University of West England. She also speaks four languages: Arabic, English, Spanish, and French. I would request all of you to be on mute so that we don't have any disturbance in between. Welcome, Razan, and over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. I hope everything is going well. You guys can hear me well. Can you just give me the thumbs up? Oh, good. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm here today to talk about the importance of ethics. We all know that coaching is usually accused of being a heavily and severely under regulated profession, which drives some coaches, unfortunately, to really use that to abuse the system or sometimes try to make money, which is, we all know that this is unethical. So this is why it's extremely important to abide by the ICF Code of Ethics in order for you to build a sustainably successful business and reputation. So yes, you might benefit off of a few clients here and there, but with time, people will stop dealing with you if you're not being ethical. All right. So this is the premise that I'm coming from. So I'm just going to share momentarily the slideshow. All right. There. All right. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Yeah, all good. Awesome. Okay, let's begin. All right. So what I have for you is, we're going to introduce the idea of the ICF Code of Ethics. The code, ICF has been working on developing coaching as a professional industry. So it's a field that stands on its own and it's science-based. So we are going to talk about this a little bit more. And then we're going to talk about ethical practice in the context of coaching. We're going to discuss very briefly the updates in the ICF Code of Ethics. As you know, a few days ago, the ICF has released, maybe last week even, new updates to the ICF Code of Ethics. So I'm going to briefly mention them and what they revolve around. Also, business advantages of ethical standards, like when you're abiding by the ICF Code of Ethics and also remaining or practice being ethical at all times, what's the impact of that business-wise? So this is a quote here by Potter Stewart, saying, ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. So not abusing what you can do or what you can have a right to. It's really choosing at all times to do the right thing. So it really, it really goes back to someone's awareness level, like a coach's awareness level of what they're doing that might be wrong. And also the amount of ignorance or lack of knowledge that this coach might have with regards to some ethical practices that are essential in the field of coaching, especially if they hold an accreditation by the ICF. So this is from the ICF website. Here it says that the ICF coaches strive every day, and we know that the ICF community has expanded worldwide tremendously in the past 10 years. So it's been around for around 30 years, right? So the ICF has been around for around 30 years, but in the past 10 years ish, the amount of coaches, the percentage of coaches, the size of the coaching community has expanded. I'm not going to say even doubled. It's more than that. Like it exploded. So this also requires that we all understand our commitment to the ICF community and what the ICF wants us to represent as coaches out there. So how do we do that? We follow the standards that the ICF, sets for us, acting responsibly and ethically at all times, at all interactions. Like even if your clients call you in between sessions, what do you do? So if you feel there's something that is going to go against your ethics or the ICF ethics, this is where you have to think responsibly before you, go along with what your client wants you to do. Also to commit to continuous growth. And I have to say, this is quite important, and I'm so happy that the ICF has added this because I've been to mentoring events and I heard a lot of coaches coaching in an inappropriate way that included judgment or evaluation of the client's thoughts or teaching or giving advice, etc. And so this just shows that those coaches who are doing that really lack the knowledge to grow as ICF coaches. All right. Also, leading by example, we have to remember that we are all representative of, this industry. So we're ambassadors. And so whatever we do affects the reputation of coaching or the ICF. So long as we hold that credential, we have to remember that we have a responsibility to always represent ourselves and our practice in the best format possible. Accountability, we have to hold ourselves accountable. So taking full responsibility of all the measures, which includes saving the client's information, for example, and always remaining ethical. Being present, celebrating diversity, abiding by the rules. So let's have a look. As I was saying, the ICF has been around for probably 30 years. And since then, it's been really updating its information, the list of competencies, the list of code of ethics, the list of items in the code of ethics. So these are the latest updates for those of you who don't know. There are more details, of course, and clauses, but in general, this is what has been added into the ICF Code of Ethics. So there's this specific focus of inclusivity and diversity, encouraging coaches to accept people, and accept clientele diversity as much as they can. Also, confidentiality, clarifications on how to maintain client confidentiality. We have to remember that, for example, Europe, like England has the GDPR, the US has the HIPAA, the HIPAA, which are regulations that have to do with saving your client's information, the records that you keep of your clients, your client's information, the records that you keep of all the details of your clients, including your notes, the emails, anything that is, that you wrote about your clients, the phone calls, the messages, how are you keeping all of those details? Where are you keeping them? Okay, so if you're done with them, where do you keep them? Or do you dispose of them? Because, certain countries, as I was saying, the UK, Europe, the US, they have their own laws and bills when it comes to saving your client's data over time. So, for example, some countries might require that you dispose of all relevant information around your clients if you're done coaching them. Some of them would allow like 10 years. So it really depends on where you are. But you are responsible, you are accountable to understanding the laws in your area or the country where you're operating. You have to understand the laws when it comes to confidentiality, privacy. Do I take notes by hand? Where do I keep my notebooks? Do I do that electronically? How am I going to dispose of them? So you have to explain that to your clients from the beginning. So they have to understand that whatever information you keep of them is kept at a safe place, and also no one can access it. And after concluding that relationship with them, you are going to dispose of the information. You're not going to keep it, especially when it comes to cloud storage, right? So if you forget to consider that, many years later, you might notice that, some of those files are still there in that cloud, which could be, a breach of privacy and confidentiality between you and your clients. So you have to be aware and educate yourself around the laws, where you're operating and where you are based. Professional conduct, at all times, setting professional boundaries. For example, no intimate relationships with our clients. This is absolutely not allowed. The ICF always stresses this. Also, coaches turning into friends, we try to avoid that. So we would keep and maintain that coaching reputation that we have worked so hard on building. So integrity at all times. If your clients call you in between sessions and they're like, so and so happened, what do you think I should do? So always maintaining your integrity by remembering that you're not there to teach the client anything. Even if you are outside of the session, this should not give you, the right to give advice or teach, because there's a backlash. If you get your clients to depend on you emotionally to solve their problems, then what's happening is that you are gaining an unethical edge there. All right. So this is absolutely unethical because your clients are not growing. So if you notice that in the list of competencies, the final competency there is facilitating client growth. The clients won't grow if you give them advice, or if you evaluate their answers, or if you judge them, or if you get them to consult you every time they're about to do anything. They grow dependent on you, or they can turn around and say, I've tried what you said, it didn't work, right? So we don't want that. We want to maintain professional conduct at all costs, all the time, remaining impartial as much as we can, while holding the client's best interests at heart. So yes, we do care about the client, but we are not going to tell them what to do and so on. Also, part of professional conduct is also remembering how you're promoting for yourself. So some of the things that I've seen personally is that, there could be a trainer who has no previous coaching training, who calls themselves a coach. Even an ICF coach, even on Instagram the other day, I saw somebody who wrote their name and then ICF PCC, and there was a license number. And we all know that there is no such a thing at the ICF. And so, sometimes part of how you promote for yourself also can tell whether you are a professional person or not, a professional coach or not. So never claiming to be something other than what you have, right? So for example, if you're a PCC, you should not write master of a master coach of emotional intelligence, for example. And you might consider, oh, well, I'm not saying ICF Master Certified Coach. What I'm saying is that I'm a master coach in emotional intelligence. So playing with those words can be unethical too. And I see this happening all around the world. So it is very common to see those breaches. However, it's unethical. And also, I think most markets globally are becoming mature when it comes to understanding the concept of coaching and what the ICF is about. The final one is responsibility and accountability, enhancing focus on coaches' responsibility to continue education and self-improvement. So your ethical dedication has to always aim at enlarging your potential, meaning growing as a coach. And I always say you grow with each client. It's not just the client growing, you grow with each client. You're exposed to different cases, new stories. Sometimes you're in a different mood each time. And so when the client comes and they portray their emotions and, whatnot, this is how you're experiencing that for the first time uniquely with every client. So every client is special like that. So sometimes you find yourself personally challenged by some of the things that your client might say. So, for example, if it's an ethical thing or if it's a cultural thing that contradicts your own culture, you might say, oh, I'm so triggered. Like I can't calm myself down. I can't maintain my presence because I'm so triggered by this client. Sometimes it's the client's voice, tone of voice, etc. So whenever you get triggered, you need to grow out of this. How? By journaling. So right after this session, promise yourself to journal those emotions and understand where they're coming from in order for you to gain leverage over those feelings and to manage your emotions better. So you become more emotionally intelligent like that in terms of managing your emotions. This is how you grow. And so if you don't do that and you go throughout those years, behaving the way you naturally do, spontaneously, etc., sometimes your clients might not appreciate it. They might think, well, this coach was not really impartial. And I heard, because now there are more events in different communities around the world that the ICF is holding. And so people are being more educated of what coaching is, what is ethical, what is not ethical, etc., etc. So you have to remember that, part of you growing is you representing the ICF in the best form possible. So what's the importance of having an ethical practice? I quickly talked about this, but the importance of having an ethical practice is to create a sustainably successful reputation as a coach. And this is what is versatile business-wise. This is what gets your market to expand. So look what it says here, not just about compliance, but is fundamental to building trust and ensuring the effectiveness and credibility of the coaching profession. So ethical practice is key in building and maintaining trust with every client that you have, even a future client. So for example, when your current client or present client refers you to their friend, they will share how much they trusted you as a result of you being so professional, so ethical. So this is the best type of advertisement that you would want to target, really, to get your clients to speak positively about you. Also, it's crucial for building a sustainably positive reputation for you as a professional coach. So building trust, building chemistry, anything that you might do that the client might hear about. So for example, if they hear that you said to another client that your computer was hacked, your other clients might feel insecure. They're like, their computer is hacked. So my information and my pictures, probably if they share pictures with you, they might say, oh, they're compromised. My privacy is compromised. So, especially if you don't do something ethical and responsible about this. So if this is the case, you need to write on your social media accounts explaining what happened and that you've taken all the security measures to try to protect the privacy of your clients. So anything like that will go a long way in maintaining the trust and chemistry that you have with your clients, with your present clients and the future ones. So choosing to abide by accepted professional standards that ensure integrity, honesty, and respect in interactions with clients, colleagues, and the larger community is what gets your reputation to grow and your business to continue thriving. Okay, so we all know, I'm sorry, is it not clear? It's not clear, is it? The colors have changed. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that most of you know the Code of Ethics. This is the link to it in case you don't know. So this is from the ICF website. If you like, you can type in this URL and then it'll get you there, right? But very quickly, as you can see, the ICF Code of Ethics always prioritizes the coach's responsibility toward the clients. So the importance of informed consent, establishing very clear agreements. Never start without explaining to your clients everything that they can expect throughout their coaching journey with you. So starting from the chemistry session, when they call you up and you meet them up for the first time, you have to explain everything that they should expect, the different clauses in your contract, everything like the refund policy, cancellation policies, etc. Also, when you're coaching, you want to set a very clean and clear agreement. Never use coaching sessions to allow your clients to vent. Coaching is not venting out. Coaching is a sound approach to supporting someone to figure out what is the best solution to their problems. And so our duty towards our clients is not to mask things or make things look better or make promises, which is unethical. Like if you're advertising for your services and you say things like, become happier in your marriage or make more money, you can't throw out these guarantees because basically it's not you who's operating on those, it's your client. So this is part of the client's responsibility, not you. You support them to figure out how they can do those things, but you're not supposed to promise anything that you can't deliver. So the importance of informed consent, ensuring confidentiality, as I said, you need to understand the laws of your country and explaining limits, to what extent you can help them. So for example, you need to have a clause that talks about, when the coach notices that coaching does not work or does not serve your client anymore, what will happen? So even if they had paid you the entire, amount in advance, you can't continue just because of that financial obligation. So basically, you need to explain to the client right away if you feel that the coaching skill set is not working. This is where you need to inform them that because you care about their best interest, you would like to refer them to a therapist or someone else who could help them, especially if we learn that there is physical harm. We have a responsibility toward our clients that if we hear there is anything that the client is doing who's threatening their lives or the lives of their kids or what have you, you should not stay mute about it. You need to communicate with the right people, and you can do that anonymously, but you should not pretend as if you did not hear anything. All right. So it's absolutely important that you should inform the right people, the right entities when it comes to, protecting your client and your client's safety. Handling conflicts of interest transparently. So, for example, if you're coaching a client and then their husband comes along, are you going to accept the husband right away? Who came first? So, for example, if the wife comes first, you need to consult with your client that you will be coaching individually, the husband. So, the first client needs to know when there's a conflict of interest, because you can't remain impartial if you're coaching both people like that. So you need to seek the consent of your clients, and also to keep their best interests at heart. Or if you're coaching a client and their competitor who comes from the same field, and you know that this is the competitor, you're not supposed to take that competitor on, because you are not, there's conflict of interest happening. So you're not supposed to do that. You will lose the trust that your previous client had or has with you. And so you have to be very mindful around conflict of interest. Now, responsibility to practice and performance. So commitment to continuous professional development. I think the ICF has been repeating this quite, heavily, because what creates a better business is for you to continue growing. And you can't continue growing if you don't understand yourself or raise your awareness. You need to understand yourself. You need to understand what triggers you. You need to understand, what type of niche you wish to uptake or to keep, or maybe you might want to change your niche. So it's up to you, really. But you need to commit to continuous professional development, and the ICF is already asking for us to do courses in order for us to be able to update or renew our accreditations, which is a good thing. Recognition and management of personal limitations. Like, for example, I heard another coach, an ICF coach, say, anything that has to do with kids, I don't want to hear of it. I can't work with kids, right? So you need to understand what triggers you, what limitations are there. If you don't wish to engage with a particular type of clients, you need to remain honest and authentic. You need to come from a place of authenticity and understand your limitations. The importance of seeking professional guidance when needed. So if you feel that, there's something you don't understand, or you get stuck in a situation, you don't know how to act with it, or maybe, there's a conflict of interest and you don't know how to solve it or resolve it, you might want to ask a more experienced coach, or maybe a lawyer, or maybe contact the ICF, right? So you do need to seek guidance. You need to ask when you lack knowledge or integral knowledge. Also, responsibility to professionalism, accuracy in representing qualifications and services, establishing clear, appropriate boundaries. As we said, coaches should never turn into friends, although I'm aware that some coaches do that, but, they're not supposed to become the client's friends, because simply the client might rehire them. A few years later, they might come back and hire them. So how can you go back to, establishing professional boundaries with someone who's become close to you, right? Also, responsibility to society, upholding principles of non-discrimination. We always, at all times, have to remain respectful of our clients and their differences and their uniqueness. Also, respecting their cultures, their beliefs, their insights, and we operate in alignment with their well-being. So what causes them to thrive, what causes them to be successful, and so on. I'm going to ask some if anyone has any questions. Anyone has any questions?
Yes, Razan, there are two questions in the chat box. I think there are more now.
Mhm,
What if a friend approaches you to get coached because they feel comfortable with you?
mhm. My answer is don't accept it. Don't accept it. Now, there are different schools in coaching. Some coaches say never coach a friend or a spouse or a sibling. Other schools say if you can guarantee that you will be like very impartial, you're going to remain very objective, and you understand that, and your client understands that, then go ahead. But I think most coaching schools say no. So anyone with whom you have a close or intimate relationship, don't think of coaching them, because at the end of the day, we're all humans. And so we have a soft spot for these people. We know their history, so we can't remain impartial. So I know things about my friend that will make me be biased towards certain thoughts or try to protect my friend. So I'm not being ethical like that. I'm making my friend depend on me even more. And the goal of the coach is to empower and support the client to become emotionally independent in finding solutions. So my answer is no. You can refer them to someone else, but you can help them as a friend, but not in a official coaching relationship.
Thank you. Thank you, Razan. The next question is, what if we inform the client that we are not coaching them on this topic, in this situation, etc., but this sounds more like mentoring or consulting, and support them in that clear separation?
What if we inform the client that we are not coaching them on this topic in this situation, but this sounds more like mentoring or consulting, and support them in that clear separation? So what is the question? Is this allowed? Is that the question?
Peter, it would be lovely to,
Yeah.
yes.
So absolutely, being transparent, explaining things clearly from the beginning is always right. So of course, if you need to explain that this is more like mentoring or consulting, do it. Now, if you're qualified enough to mentor, go ahead and help them. You can mentor, your client. If, for example, they're coaches, you can mentor them. But if you're mentoring them on the case they're bringing to the session, this is not allowed. You're not allowed to mentor your clients or teach them or advise them or anything. So, for example, I mentor other coaches. This is allowed because they are my mentoring clients. This is allowed. What is not allowed is that my coaching clients ask for my opinions or ask me to mentor them. This is not allowed. So we're not supposed to consult. We're not supposed to mentor unless we're offering blended coaching, meaning we blend coaching with consulting and mentoring. So if you do advertise for yourself as offering not pure coaching, but hybrid coaching, meaning you're blending coaching with another type of specialty, then since you've promoted for this, your client has signed the contract based on this understanding, then sometimes when you're shifting hats between the mentor or consultant and the coach, you need to make the client aware. So you can say something like, okay, I'm shifting to the consultant hat now. Okay, I'm shifting to the coach's hat now. So this is what blended coaches do. They inform the clients. But if you're promoting for yourself solely as an ICF coach and you go on mentoring or advising or consulting, this is not allowed. Are the three options clear?
Yeah, I just want to ask another question, please, Razan.
Mm-hmm.
You just said when if you take the like if I'm having like 4 coaching sessions, for example, and I take the payment in advance, all of it, and then the client decided not to complete the coaching sessions with me, I have to get his payment in full to stop the coaching sessions immediately and return his payment is full. That's what we're saying. Am I right?
Okay. So again, we have to be very transparent. We have to work on the agreement from the beginning. So you inform your clients about the clauses of refund. So the refund policy should include, for example, that if the client wishes to discontinue being coached by you, that you would probably, it depends on you, but for example, what I say, I would deduct the amount of sessions the client has had with me and refund the rest of it. And then I would let them know when the refund get to the back to their accounts. If I feel like discontinuing coaching someone, like I'm not feeling comfortable, or I feel like, I understand my limitation, I can't continue coaching this person, then I should inform them. It's ethical to inform them. So I should have, under the refund policies, two clauses, one for the client, one for the coach, that says, or that say that, if either parties wishes to discontinue, the amount of the sessions can be deducted, but the remaining amount can be refunded back.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Further questions?
Yes. I'm curious, how do you know when they are going to vent? You could ask them what they plan to talk about and they start venting. Do you stop them midway?
Yes, that's correct. So under the ICF markers, we are allowed actually to interrupt the clients when there's a stated purpose to do so, right? So if you have a stated coaching purpose, meaning a valid reason why you should interrupt your clients, you are supposed to interrupt them. What is a valid or stated coaching purpose? Say, for example, you've established the agreement. Now the client is exploring, and then they go off on a tangent. They start venting out or crying or taking a long time, but they're moving away from the main direction of the session, which is not leading to the outcome that the client sets for themselves at the beginning of the session. So if this is happening, then you can allow, of course, some space for the client to vent out and cry and say whatever they want. But afterwards, you need to say, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I'm very aware that at the beginning you said you wanted to accomplish this by the end of the session. And I understand that the conversation might have gotten off on a tangent, but I'm just confused now where we are heading. So I was wondering, what's the connection between what you were just saying now, which obviously has triggered you, and the outcome that you set for yourself. So sometimes there's an invisible connection that we might not be able to make, but the client explains it. On the other side, if the client says, oh, you're right, I got off on a tangent, I'm sorry, I took a lot of our time together, I want to go back to the main direction of the conversation. So then they correct themselves. So what you're doing, you're reeling them back to the conversation instead of just derailing and going somewhere else. So this is a stated purpose to do so. If you notice that your client is moving away from the main focus of the conversation, then you can interrupt the client. You can say, but you do that politely. So you wait for the client to finish, and then you can say, allow me to interrupt you there, but you were talking about this and you wanted to accomplish this by the end of the session. I'm not sure where we are right now. Can you please explain where we are? So then the client, what you're doing is that you're checking in with the client. So not only you've interrupted, but also you're checking in. Are we still on the same page? Is my client somewhere else, right? So you want to avoid that. Your commitment, your ethical commitment to your client is to support them, to make the most out of the time that you've got together in each session. So if you feel that the conversation is not being productive, not progressing towards the goal of the session, then you might want to address that with your clients. Anything else?
I think, Shanti, your question is also answered with what Razan was just explaining. Next, Kiran says, when strict adherence to the coaching code of ethics seems to limit the scope of exploration in a conversation, how can coaches creatively navigate this while remaining fully compliant?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Which one is it?
Kiran Dixit.
Yeah, I found it. When strict adherence to the coaching code of ethics seems to limit the scope of exploration in a conversation, how can coaches creatively navigate this while remaining fully compliant? You see, this is exactly what I meant by, seeking more knowledge around our roles as coaches. I might understand what the competencies are, I might understand what the markers are, but I don't understand how I can support someone by not, for example, giving advice or interfering with the way the client is solving the problem. So it's we're not supposed to do that. As coaches, you're supposed to ask the right questions. You're supposed to remain present. If you are actively listening and you're present and you're asking the powerful questions and evoking awareness, then there is no way that you can't support your clients. If those competencies are not working, then probably your client is not coachable in the first place. So recognizing whether your client is coachable or not is your responsibility, because a coachable client is someone who continues to grow towards the achievement of their goals. But someone who's uncoachable is someone who's stuck in the past, for example, or is perceiving something as beyond their power, etc., etc. Then by all means, this means that the client does not need coaching. They need something else, such as therapy. So it's not that the code of ethics is strict at all. The code of ethics enhances your professional conduct. Think about it this way. It should not limit you. It has nothing to do with the competencies or the markers. So the competencies and the markers are the ones that have to do with your interactions with your clients. But the code of ethics is not strict. It's professional. And so if there's this assumption that I need to do more for my clients, then probably I need to reevaluate my understanding of what coaching is about and seeking some evidence, some scientific evidence, what makes coaching successful despite of the fact that we're not leading or guiding or giving advice or teaching the client anything. Does that make sense?
Kiran, are you there? Yes. I think Nariman has been raising his hand for a while. Nariman, would you like to go?
Yeah, thank you. Haven't typed in my message because I'm driving, but I would like to take you back for a minute on the mentoring part. What if there is a situation, and I've had these situations, a couple of them in my experience, where the client acknowledges the fact that mentoring is not part of the deal, is not part of the agreement. He is fully cognizant and he's aware of that. But then he goes on to say, yes, I know we didn't sign up for this, but on this particular issue, in this particular session, I want you to mentor me. And then I have kind of taken him back to the fact that, this was not part of the agreement. And he then starts getting upset and says, this is not done. And the whole environment kind of starts getting a little bad. So my question to you is that when it comes to this situation, what is the ethical thing to do? Where the client is insisting that, mentor me. I know it was not meant to be like this, but now I want it like this for the next half an hour.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your question there. The client, Nariman, can say whatever they want. The clients can say whatever they want. They can say, why aren't you picking up my phone calls? They can get upset. They can do whatever they want. It's up to them. What falls under my power or in my control is me remaining ethical to that agreement that I established with them earlier. So if your client insists, then you can go back to your contract and remind them. So you need to have in that contract a clause that explains that coaching is not mentoring or teaching or any form of guidance. And it's not therapy, it's not training, it's not et cetera, right? So you need to bring them back to that contract that they signed. And then if they continue being upset, you can apologize. So you can say, I'm sorry, I'm not able to help you here. So I'm just wondering, do you wish to continue? Or would you like to discontinue this coaching relationship? So just set that boundary very clearly, because setting boundaries is being ethical to what you had agreed with them in the first place. So maintaining your agreements at all costs.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I agree.
You're very welcome.
Okay, just calling it out. We have 5 more minutes to go. Can we continue with the questions only, Razan?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty much done with my presentation. So yeah, I've said
Okay.
everything so far.
Great. Dipti, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so hi, thanks for your presentation, Razan. Deepti this side. Just carrying on Nariman's line of thought, sometimes it can be a little bit annoying if you just try to keep telling the client that, no, I will not tell. And I feel you can't tell them at that moment that, we stop right now and I make a new contract where I will mentor you and then you okay that and then we restart or something. So I think I kind of agree with Nariman that sometimes you are in that difficult position. And
Yes.
that is one part. And second part is like, is it like I had a client who wanted me to share my experience, even if not mentor, because she was in a similar situation with a younger son who is in high school, and I've already gone through that. And she just wanted my experience. What was my experience? So basically two things. Is it okay to share my experience? And second
No.
thing, when it is annoying them that you go on saying, no, I'm not going to suggest you anything.
Okay, so your question and Nariman's question tell me that you need to work better on establishing the agreement. So from the beginning, explain that it's a no-go zone for me to give you my advice. Not at all. But also I heard you say it's a friend. So remember what I said earlier about coaching a friend. A friend will try to pressure you, right?
Sorry, I'll interrupt. No, no, not a friend. I did not say that. Maybe some misunderstanding.
Is it a client?
Yeah, it's a client. Yeah.
Okay, so in both cases, you're not supposed to share. You're not supposed to share because they're not paying you for your experience. So if you're doing consulting, they're paying you to hear about your experience. If you're coaching, they're not paying you for that. They're paying you to partner with them. So we are partners. There's no client advantage over us. We're partners. We're equals in this relationship. So if they're paying us to support them to figure solutions out for themselves, then they're not interested. They should not be interested in what we have to say. So in general, you are not allowed to share at all. Now, if you're offering hybrid coaching, which is blended coaching, not pure coaching, then if from the beginning you set the agreement very clearly that sometimes I will be the mother consultant, the mommy consultant, and other times I will be the mommy coach, right? If this is your niche, like a mommy coach, right? So you're helping mothers in their parenting issues or whatever. So if you're doing pure coaching, you're not supposed to share. If you're doing blended coaching, then as a consultant, you can say, I'm wearing the consultant hat right now. And as a consultant, I tell you 1, 2, 3. Also, not your own experience with your kids, but rather what you know as a consultant. So for example, if you'd been trained professional as a consultant, you can share that with them as sharing advice. But this way you're not doing pure coaching, you're hybridizing coaching something else. It's blended coaching.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now, also, if your clients are bothering you, nagging you, and putting you under pressure, it just means that you need to keep going back to the agreement. If they're being uncoachable as a result of this, you can discontinue coaching them. Little by little, you'll start attracting the right type of clients. All right. Is there a term blended coaching that we can use if required in professional coaching practice communication? Yes, they call it blended coaching or hybrid coaching. It's not pure coaching anymore. So you're blending coaching. So you do have a certification as a coach, but you also say, for example, you're a financial consultant, right? So what do you do if you become a coach? Do you cancel your financial expertise? No, you don't. So you hybridize these two, provided that you promote for yourself as a blended coach. You're not promoting for yourself as a coach, full stop. It's a blended coach. So you're mixing both. You're explaining what it means to blend coaching with another form of expertise. Other questions?
I think Shruti has a question. This will be the last question. I think,
Okay.
yes.
Yes. Hi, good evening, everyone. Razan, first of all, thank you for such a simplified, version of the new ICF Code of Ethics. What I had long in my mind is there are certain standards and there are certain heads in which those ethical standards are set in the code. What if we have the dilemma between following two of the standards which are there? So, for example, it might happen that in a moment when I am getting triggered by something said or something being in the behavior of the client, so that means there's a personal impairment. Also, there is an agreement that the session has to be for an hour or a half an hour, which because of my personal impairment, I have to stop, or maybe I can say in the session that it would not be good for me to continue. I'm not in the frame of mind to continue with this. So there is a dilemma between two standards that are set in the code of ethics only. So at that point in time, I am sort of negating the agreement that the session had to be for an hour. It's my responsibility to give that hour only and only for my client, and that personal impairment has also happened. So at that point in time, how do we judge that, which is more right probably to do in that moment?
Okay, so here you're neglecting the skill of emotional management, which is what happens within. So it's your responsibility to be able to park those intrusive thoughts to the side and promise yourself to journal about them after the session. Like, practice curiosity. What caused me to get triggered? What was it exactly that my client said? So this is part of emotional management or self-regulation. So this is our responsibility. The other part was what? Can you repeat that?
Yes, actually, this was just an example. It's just that there are two different ethical standards. So sometimes there may be a situation wherein two of them are at conflict. So how do we judge that? Which one should we go with in that situation?
There is no conflict whatsoever. There can't be a conflict. There could be a possibility that I'm not fully aware or cognizant of what this and that means, but there is no conflict. It can't be that there is a conflict because, the ICF has been explaining things very clearly to us. Now, if you feel you have a difficulty understanding something, such as, for example, what happens when I'm triggered? What happens if the client wishes to discontinue? What happens if I wish to discontinue? If there's something that I lack knowledge of, then I can for sure ask somebody who's more knowledgeable, or maybe hire a mentor or a supervisor and ask my questions. So this way you are being resourceful. It doesn't mean that the clauses are in contradiction or in conflict with each other. Does that make sense?
Yes. I do understand that it will be purely our perception or understanding of
Exactly.
the different. Yes. All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That was helpful,
You're
Razan.
very
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
You're very welcome. I just want to say one last thing. Whatever happens with you or the client, being transparent, addressing this transparently with your clients will increase their trust in you. It will make them view you as someone very ethical. They will trust you at all times. Their trust in you will continue growing. So there is no conflict or no strictness about the ICF Code of Ethics. Rather, it's us who need to understand, what each, point inside of this code of ethics, what it means, what am I supposed to do? What am I not supposed to do? Right? So yeah, basically always remain ethical, address things. If you're polite, you can address things with respect. Your clients will not react. Actually, they will help you. They'll become more aware. They will start being coached much smoother.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Razan. I think um, the audience can also agree with me that they can't get enough and they have a lot of questions. But we have very less time. Sorry for that, people. But thank you so much, Razan, for an amazing, amazing webinar today. I think a lot of them have a lot of thinking to do, going back and reflecting on their conversations and their situations. And from Coach to Transformation, greetings to all of you. Have a great evening, day, and good night. Thank you, Razan. We
You're
will
welcome.
hopefully connect again and see how we can collaborate in the future.
Hopefully. Thank you for hosting me and nice meeting everyone here. I hope that this has been useful for you. Bye for now.
Bye bye. And all the
Bye. Thank
audience,
you for a
please
great
stay
session.
back.
Welcome.
Please stay back. I have a small news for all of you. I would like to introduce all of you to our DEIB program, which is Diversity, Inclusion, Equity and Belonging program, where you get certified as Ubuntu coach. I'm just leaving in a link. This is a pro bono program. You don't have to pay any kind of fees, but we would love for each one of you to become an Ubuntu coach and understand what it is to be aware of diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. I've left the form below in the chat box. I would really appreciate if you all can register and we will connect with you for the next batch and the timings.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.